Okay, Abram-Hagstrom here. I'm here today with Aaron Moffett of 7K Metals, spelled with a T, not a D.
Two T's.
Two T's.
Mm-hmm.
M-E...
Oh, my name. Yeah, not the metals.
No, metals. Metals spelled with one T, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. And no D's.
Just my name is two T's.
Yeah, M-O-F-F-E-T-T.
That's correct.
Yeah, and you can be found on Facebook and elsewhere?
You can't find me on Facebook any longer by my real name. I was donated a new Facebook page because my original one was taken down, and again, for reasons that no one can clarify. However, you can find me on YouTube under my exact name. So my YouTube channel is as my name will be spelled out.
Aaron Moffett, okay.
Yes.
And I can link to that in the show notes.
Yes, you can.
Cool. The reason I wanted to talk to Aaron today, and I guess this will just be sort of not quite a public service announcement for my listeners, but it's a little off topic, I guess, for my podcast. But I'm interested in what you do, which is you're a broker of precious metals, silver and gold.
I wouldn't call myself a broker because I don't really sell what I own.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to educate people on why they should want to buy gold and silver and the reason that I'm doing it, and the standpoint of the economy, taxes, and your W-2 job and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of I believe, a way to freedom.
Okay. Well, I have some questions for you that will be, I think, challenge those points.
Okay.
Really, because I think if you're going to make a claim about what's going to keep people safe, it needs to be challenged. Would you agree?
Sure.
Yeah. But let's start out with some vocab, because as I read a little bit about precious metals, I found myself having to look up words. And so I got five vocab questions for you.
Let's hope I know them.
I'm sure you will. What is bullion?
Okay, I do know that one.
Yeah.
So bullion is going to be the difference between a coin versus just the weight value of silver or gold. And I'll just usually say silver for now.
Okay.
So for instance, a coin is going to have a denomination, a date, and a sovereign nation.
Okay.
And a mint. So those are the four things that make a coin: sovereign nation, date, mint, and the face value, which you'll see the denomination will say like $1, $2.
Plata pura. So I'm guessing this is from Mexico?
Yes.
So a silver Mexican dollar. Aaron has brought a case of very cool looking silver coins that unfortunately you guys won't be able to see.
But I have all that on my website.
Okay. So they can see
website,
pictures.
Yeah, you can link the website as well as my YouTube.
And what is your address?
It's 7K Metals with a T, 7kmetals.com /Lady Liberty.
Lady Liberty.
Which is easy to remember. And so bullion is going to be something that is only valued by its weight. And you'll say, well, isn't a coin only valued by its weight? Well, a coin has a higher premium because you know it comes from a mint. So you know it's pure silver. You don't have to go have anyone check it. A round doesn't come from a mint. It usually doesn't even have a mint's name, and it won't have a face value or a denomination.
Okay, what's a round? Is that another name
bullion.
for a coin?
That's a round bullion.
So is there a distinction between bullion that has been struck into coins and bullion that is not struck into coins?
Yes, so this will be now at a higher premium. You'll pay a little bit more because it's a coin.
Okay.
Because we know it's from a mint. Sometimes it's in a little bit nicer design, sometimes not. I have some rounds with some very nice designs.
Okay.
But I have some rounds with some not very fancy designs.
Okay.
You know, so it's really just a matter of...
She said not very fancy as she hands me the Donald J. Trump coin.
Actually, that's one of my favorites, and I'll hold on to that for a long time. I go back and forth on what I think he's doing for our country, but I do support my president.
Are these plastic cases called cards?
Capsules.
Okay. Capsules. So you're paying a little bit extra. So you've got the silver, but you also have the work and the proof that has gone into coining them.
Right.
Okay.
Because I don't know what mint makes this Donald Trump round, right? I don't know what mint makes it. I have to look up what mint, or I have to just know who I'm buying from. Now, we'll say that it's 2 ounces and it's 0.999, but how do I know? I don't know that's really true, right?
Because
unless I trust the company I buy it from, or I can take it to a pawn shop and they can tell me how much is in there.
Really?
Any
old pawn shop?
They have the ability. I don't know that they'll all do that for you.
How
but
exactly
they can.
do they test it?
It's a machine. It's like a $500 to $3,000 machine that tells you it's just like a metal detector. If you're going to go out metal detecting, or if you're looking for a certain metal, you can set your detector to that.
Yeah, but probably those. I mean, we don't need to discuss the technology, but those metal detectors probably just use some sort of magnet to detect ferrous metals.
There's some that can detect the difference between silver and aluminum.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure the technology
but the
behind it.
fact that a pawn shop would carry a machine that could detect the purity of a silver coin?
They
Because
have to.
at this point, we're talking about a discrepancy between, 0.985 and 0.999.
We're not really.
No?
Because what if somebody just melted some scrap stuff and then pounded it into a coin because they happen to have the dye materials and made a bunch of counterfeit stuff and sold it as the real thing. And then somebody brings it to the pawn shop and they want
Okay.
money for it.
So they're not really testing for purity as such. They're testing
Well, not but doing that, probably not that much purity,
Yeah.
but they're testing, are you giving me no
Alum-
silver?
yeah,
are you giving
exactly.
me half silver?
Yeah,
Or are
right.
you giving me
Okay.
pretty close to pure silver?
Okay, next vocab question. What is an ingot?
I think the ingots are like the little tiny ones, but I could be wrong. It could be the shape. I'm not sure on that one.
All right, that's fine.
We can always look it up if you're really interested.
What is a troy ounce?
Okay, troy ounce is different than your regular measuring ounce. I don't have the history in front of me because you didn't give me the questions ahead of time.
Right, that's fine.
But a troy ounce is going to be a different weight than the ounce that you measure if you're at home. So I believe it's 32 grams as opposed to the 28.
Okay.
Might have that backwards, but it's 32 and 28.
The troy ounce is one of the
Should
two.
be 32.
Okay.
I believe I'm
So
correct.
it's a heavier weight than.
Yeah, so it's more grams than you're going to see
Yeah.
in the regular ounce where you
Regular.
measure at home.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why, but it's just different with silver and gold.
Yeah. Is that a reference to Greece? The troy? Do you know?
Not sure.
Okay. Number 4, and I guess you answered that. How many troy ounces per gram? 32. It sounds
Well,
like.
1 ounce is 32 grams.
Or that. Yeah, I should have said how many grams
Grams.
per troy ounce.
Yes.
Yeah. And number 5, what does assay mean? What does it mean
Oh, like
to?
an assay?
Is that how you pronounce it?
ASSAY?
Yeah.
I don't know, without looking up the definition.
I once knew a kid in high school whose last name was, we called him, I think it was, how do we pronounce it? AC or Assay. That in any case, that was his last name, and now I'm thinking to myself, his progenitors must have been in that line of work, just
Could be.
just like Thatcher as a surname.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I could make up what they might be meaning by it, but I really am not going to be right. And
That's
I'm sure
okay.
somebody out there in the audience will know it.
I doubt it.
I'm surprised that one of the words you didn't ask was numismatic.
Numismatic. I think
Did you see that?
I've come across it, and I think it has to do with the collection or substantiation of the legitimacy of coins.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So the numismatics are graded
Oh,
on a scale.
a numismatic. You just used it as a noun.
A numismatic coin. Yep.
So that
Or the study of numismatics could be the study of the purity. I'm sorry, not purity, but the collectability or the perfection of the coin.
yeah.
So it hasn't been touched with fingers. It hasn't been dinged.
So numismatic by definition implies that it's never made contact with you.
Well, the numismatics is going to be on the range of grading. So you might have coins that you consider numismatic. You're going to get them graded, right? You say this is a numismatic coin. I'm getting it. It's been graded, graded from 0 to 70. Dr. Sheldon was a doctor that did the study of the purity, or not the purity, excuse me, I keep saying that, but the perfection of these coins. And we're talking he didn't start doing this till maybe 40 years ago, because we can't have a perfect coin from 1898 because they weren't grading coins and vacuum sealing. I'm like, what you're holding is a vacuum sealed coin that has now gone under laser, but they used to use magnifying glasses and take a real close look and say, this is in the most perfect condition we can get it. And there must have been at least 70 drops down from that, because it goes to 70.
The scale of numismatics
Right,
goes
so
to 70.
0 is unrecognizable. He's probably been driven over in the parking lot many times, up to 70, which is perfect. You probably,
And that has to do with the condition of the coin.
the condition, yeah.
Okay.
And its perfection.
Cool.
Or lack thereof.
So what you just handed me is this little rectangular case with what looks to my eye like rose gold.
Well, I don't know that there's actually gold on it. It's been colored, but it's a silver coin that I paid for the same as any other silver coin like it. But having been graded as perfect, and there's less of them, usually less than 5% of any struck coin will be in that kind of perfect condition. So they've encased it in a vacuum sealed case.
Yeah.
They've given it an identification number. And so like you said, with the collectability, that's now a collectible, regardless of whether it has silver in it or gold or whatever. So the value goes up just because of collectability reasons.
Yeah. And one of the very strange features in this coin she just handed me is that actually there is a little what looks like a resin capsule or something on the top with a 4-leaf clover.
A real 4-leaf clover in it.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of these.
No, yeah. I mean, in terms of rarity, I don't know how rare a 4-leaf clover actually is.
I'm not sure.
But
No one could probably know.
Would you think it would be rare enough to where this would be like one of only 100 in the world?
I don't think it's only 100. I think there's probably at least 1,000 of these.
Okay.
But if you think about that, how many people are buying gold and silver just in my company alone are 10,000.
10,000 buyers in your company?
Yes. So I only have one of 1,000, let's say. You know how collectors work. It's going to be the condition that something is in, the rarity, what's on it, and the year. Often are the ways that people decide collectability. So if it's 1999, we had a silver shortage because of Y2K. And the scare then, which we may have a silver shortage this year because of the coronavirus scare.
Let's not get into that quite yet, but I am interested in how all these macro social phenomena contribute to the pricing of these metals.
Right.
So when you just referred to your company, is that 7K Metals that you're referring to?
Right. I don't own it, but I buy into the business by being a part of it.
Okay. So 7K is much larger than you.
Yes.
But you're part of that.
Yes.
And within 7K, there's 10,000 buyers, you said, roughly?
I would say so. I would
Okay.
say we're at least up to that. We probably have had more people than that have gotten on board, but they don't do anything with it. And so I personally have, when I say sponsored, I've gotten people interested and gotten them involved, over 50 people, and probably only 13 of them are actively buying.
Okay.
Maybe 15. So you'll see this huge portion kind of drop off. But I would say in this amount of time, at one point we had well over 10,000 people that have bought in. So I would say we're getting close to that as buyers, hopefully. And so if you have something as rare, so if you just think about that as an example, if you have something that's only 1,000 of them, not even everybody in the company is going to get one. And so we have these rare items that if we, jump on it, maybe it's not your thing. You might go, I don't care about 4-leaf clovers. And you won't jump on it, but somebody out there will want this one. And again, if it's too rare, it's going to be harder to sell.
Well, let me just talk to the listeners for a little bit to clarify why I'm even doing this. Like, I would be talking to you in either case, but we're recording partially because I just wanted to be able to share this conversation and any of its educational upshots with people that may or may not be interested. I mean, you have to hear about this at some point for the first time, and some of the listeners will never have thought about gold at all.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I have just sort of an abiding interest in economics and many topics, but I've just, for years, I've wondered how these systems work, how money works, how arbitrary is it, how reliable is it as a store of value. So when you start asking these questions, eventually you do discover that there are more and less stable ways to store value, and there have been for over the centuries. Gold is one of those things that has stood the test of time more than any paper currency.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I have some kind of pointed questions, but we'll wade into those, starting with just the question of current price. When you think of pricing precious metals, do you think of price per ounce or price per gram?
Ounce.
Okay, so what is today's price per ounce of gold?
So just to explain, it's called spot price.
Cool.
I believe today gold is somewhere around $1,600 an ounce.
1,600.
Yes.
And in your perspective, does that seem high, middle, or low?
Well, it's the dollar that's dropped in value. Gold has stayed the same.
That is a great and fundamentally important point to make, because those of us who don't think in these terms don't realize that the dollar is sliding all around year to year, century to century, decade to decade. And what we think is that other things are changing value relative to the dollar.
Right.
What's actually happening is the dollar is this slippery variable that actually changes value.
Right. And so what you asked is, do I think that's high? It's a high amount of dollars compared to what I have. I don't carry around a lot of $1,600 gold coins.
Yeah.
So I buy in grams.
Okay.
I can afford to do that.
Yeah. So per ounce, which is 32 troy grams, as we were talking about, or thereabouts.
The troy ounce is 32 grams, yes.
We're looking at $1,600. $1,600
Yes.
for an ounce of gold.
That's correct.
All right. Okay. So that's just a little point of reference for
Silver, on the other hand, is around $17 an ounce. Much more affordable.
Yeah. Who sets the price?
That's a good question. COMEX, Commodities and Exchange.
What? No, tell us more. I have no idea what COMEX
So
means.
COMEX is for commodities and exchange. So even like oil or other commodities that are going to be.
What is it? Is it
It's a
department?
Government.
U.S. government?
I would say it's world government because it's designed for our commodities and exchange with other countries.
Okay. So COMEX stands for Commodities and
Exchange.
Exchange what?
Of commodities. The exchange of commodities. So anything that falls under commodities.
Yeah. All right.
I don't have a list in front
that's
of me.
okay.
But it'd be a quick search and somebody could say, okay, these are all the commodities.
COMEX.
A lot of them are food and things like that.
Hmm.
But for some reason this is under there. I think it's a manipulation tool because it's government's run. It's the bigwigs that run this stuff. People that you say who, I don't know. They, the elite.
They. Yeah, okay. So somebody is setting the price. It's not purely set by the market.
No, the New York Stock Exchange does post the price, but we don't know who adjusts it. But we also believe in this industry, a lot of us that are stacking silver and gold, we believe that it's being held down. And
the value of the price is being artificially suppressed?
Yes. And there are big banks that are part of that, like JP Morgan. Some people call this conspiracy theory, but I see if you do enough research, which doesn't take long, you're going to probably find that it's pretty factual that JP Morgan bought up a lot of silver and they're selling what's called futures. It's paper. It's called an ETF. And it says, if you buy this, I promise I'll give you silver in the future. Mm-hmm. But they're selling more ETFs than they have silver. Does that sound familiar to you?
Fractional reserve banking.
So you now have another company that's still trying to sell precious metals, so as it's said, but when it comes time to deliver, like what happened in 1971 when Nixon stopped the gold backing of the dollar, you're going to find that your stuff's not there, which is what happened in 1971. We stopped backing the dollar with gold.
You mean people who went to withdraw their deposits found that it wasn't there?
So in 1944, quick lesson, I won't take too long.
No, this is really important, so we can take as long as we need.
Okay. In 1944, all the countries, first world countries, came together in Bretton Woods, and that's a city in the Midwest somewhere, and they came together and they said, we're going to tether our currency to the U.S. dollar because it's backed by gold. Well,
so that in that arrangement, the dollar became a proxy for a gold standard for all these currencies because the one was stuck to the other. The dollar was stuck to gold, and we were actually accumulating, protecting, and retaining gold reserves.
Yes.
Just an important fact for the uninitiated because it's not obvious. We never see those the gold stocks. We never really think about them. We deal in these paper units that at one point were backed, no longer are, and for most of us, we were born after the change, and we've only ever known the dollar as a kind of a standalone floating unit of value.
We've been pushed to forget about it. 1964 is the last year that we had a 90% silver coin. They were 90% silver previous to 1965. So
what was the coin?
Any not the nickel, but the dime, the quarter, the half dollar, and the dollar were all made of 90% pure silver.
Okay.
Up until 1964, that'd be the last year. They've wanted you to forget because gold became illegal to own from 1934 to 1974. Reagan is the one that fixed that for us and made it legal again. However, what happened, really why our dollar, we've been dropping. The dollar value has been dropping since the Federal Reserve came in 1913. But in 1971, we were printing a lot of bills, and other countries became concerned. We were at war. We were supposedly sending a man to the moon. And we were printing a lot of extra bills, and so the other countries are saying, I don't think you have enough gold to back that, and we want our gold. And so Nixon said, well, I'm going to...
Let's pause. Yeah. What the countries were saying to the U.S. is, hey, we have been accumulating your dollars. We don't think they're worth what they seem to be worth anymore, so let us give you back the dollars and give us the gold that you have to back those
kind of like
dollars.
The ETFs were a promise for gold, futures of gold and silver. So same idea. They wanted their gold, and Nixon said, I'm going to prove that the dollar is strong by stopping the gold standard. Didn't make any sense, but that's what he did. So we were no longer backed by gold. It was only supposed to last for 30 days. We immediately went into a little bit of a hyperinflation, and now here we are today. That was 1971. It's 2020, and we still don't have any gold backing our dollar. And the dollar is worth about 2 cents of its original value.
Which year are you?
So the original value was $1 was worth $1 silver dollar. One ounce
in silver, and that would have been I forget the name of this.
1913 was the last time it ever valued at a full dollar.
Okay, so if we were just to conceptualize in our mind's eye of the value of the dollar on a sort of a y and x axis, we would see it at its height back in 1913, and ever since then, year by year, it's been going down, down, down.
Right. And you'd see it bolster in certain times when, like the dollar looks good when certain things go on in the stock exchange, but what you'll also see is when the dollar drops in value and we have a market crash, like in 2008, silver and gold will gradually go up. Till by the time we were in 2011, silver, instead of being starting at something like $8 an ounce, had gone up to $50 an ounce in that market crash. And then it came back down when the dollar bolstered back up again.
So, as the value of the dollar fluctuates, the price of gold, of course, goes up and down as well.
Not much,
No?
but yes, it would seem like that. But what you said is accurate. Just as we've seen the dollar gradually drop from 1913, gold and silver have gradually risen up. Even though there's these small little humps along the way,
Right.
it's gradually continued to rise. Our dollar is backed by petrol now, or gasoline and oil, but again, it's more volatile than just having it backed by gold.
Yeah. Okay. I maybe don't want to take too long on this because it will just become a lesson in the mechanics of money. Important stuff. But can you maybe try to give a brief answer about why gold tends to retain its value
Yes.
better than anything else?
Gold is based on the value is based on human effort. So what it takes to get out of the ground, and what it takes to purify it, and what it takes to put it into this round or coin or anything, any design,
Yeah.
is human effort.
I know.
And
It's
that
so
has
good.
not changed.
I just want to underline the human effort.
Yes.
That is so critical for anybody who cares to really start to think about this. You will find that value is reducible to that because you always end up paying for that, whether it's because somebody can do something that you can't do or they're willing to do something you don't want to do.
Yes.
The reason you pay them is for one of those two reasons. And if you don't have a unit within which to denominate and I guess represent the value of that effort, well, then you don't have any way to do business.
Right.
Right. And if the unit within which you denominate the value of effort goes up and down, your unit for conducting business is that much more like hard to understand and easier to cheat,
Yes.
especially if you're the one who is able to make the value fluctuate in the way that you want it to. Yeah. So go on.
Well, and I was going to say a lot of our mines are shutting down for this very reason.
Okay. MINES.
Yes, mines. And because the value of silver is not enough to cover what we have to pay those guys to go down and get it.
And so this would be a reference to your earlier comment about the suppression of the value, because that should not be the case, right?
Right.
It shouldn't be the
Why should
case.
we be shutting down mines to get something that's valuable and then drop the price of it to sell more of it? But we can't go get more because we're closing the mines because these guys aren't going to work for such a low wage. And their pay is based on the value of
I
gold
guess
and silver.
it could make sense if the supply is so glutted that we're now saying we have more silver than there is a demand for it. We just don't need any more silver.
one's saying that.
But that's possible, right?
It is a possibility.
It's happened in the past.
Which is why I believe that J.P. Morgan bought it up like they did. But then again, did they buy it up like they did out of panic or something else? Or is it just to control the price? Or do they know something that none of us do? Because I guarantee you, when people say they're going to go talk to their financial advisor, I say, have a nice day, don't bother coming back to me, because their financial advisor is never going to tell them to buy gold and silver. They're going to keep them in paper for the rest of their lives. They don't make any money off of this. You go to the bank, they're not going to tell you to buy gold and silver. The bankers don't tell you this.
Well,
Your financial advisors don't tell you this.
On that note, is it possible to buy stocks in gold?
Yes, and a lot of people do.
So, I don't want to take too much time on it, but what is the difference between buying gold stock and buying actual gold?
You're buying stocks and based on whether the mines are doing well, whether the dollar price of the gold and silver is doing well. I'm not a stock person. I don't buy stocks. In fact, I personally would rather just get away from paper altogether.
Yeah.
But I do see other people doing that. They're doing well. And so instead of for a 401k, if they're going to handle it themselves, they might put it into, because they have to put it into some kind of paper stock deal, they'll put it into gold and silver because they already are buying it. A lot of gold and silver people will do that. They trust that more. They'll put it into an IRA that's gold and silver.
But still gold and silver stock, right?
You can do that for your 401ks even.
And I don't mean I guess what I'm trying to draw out a distinction between the stock market and actual physical gold, because
it's not based on. It's not. You're not going to get any physical gold because of your stocks. Your stocks are just solely based on what's going on with gold and silver.
On how that market performs. Yeah. Okay. Have you ever heard of Noble Gold?
Yes.
Okay.
I bought from them a couple times.
Because they have an option to have a 401k in physical precious metals.
We have that too.
Okay.
So you're good to go on that.
Nice. These are just
yes. Oh no, it's
various
great.
steps of.
Just because I'm with this company doesn't mean I don't like other companies. And I bought from Noble Gold, and I bought from APMEX, and I bought from JM Bullion, because sometimes they have things that I want that we don't have.
Yeah.
But primarily, I buy a lot from my company because I get paid by them as well. So they buy my gold and silver.
Okay. Another question that I had on the topic of the price of gold is whether it's possible to get a discount. And really, I don't know if the question sounds ignorant, but if you're selling some other widget, somebody can sell it for less than the next guy. Is that the case with gold or not?
I think that's a great question, because that brings me back to when I was mentioning what spot price is. And spot price is the basic price of getting it out of the ground, allegedly, right? We talked that might be held down, but let's just go with that it's not. Okay. That's the price to get it out of the ground. And then you send it to the mint, or then you purify it, then you send it to the mint, then they stamp it, or whatever mint you're sending it to, whoever you're sending it to, and then they stamp it with their stamp. And so there's going to be different premiums on different coins, like we talked about as well. Some things are going to be less because they're very generic. You might just get a solid bar that just says silver, and it's going to be a lot less expensive than a bar that has like the flag on it or the 10 Commandments, or some of those might just be considered generic as well. So there's generic, and then there's premium stuff. But what you can do with the price is you can change it multiple paths along the way. So first you've got the mint. So the mint gets it and they put their price on it, which goes to like the broker, which goes to the wholesaler, which goes to the retailer. So most people will buy from the retailer after it's gone through 3 other hands. We get the price from the dealer. So I didn't say dealer in there, but it can be exchanged with broker. Broker dealer, okay? So it's the mint to the broker, to the wholesaler, to the retailer. And we get that broker price. And so we're not discounting.
When you say we, you mean 7K?
This company, yes,
yeah,
excuse me.
That's right.
And the reason that we get that price is because the 4 men that put this together have connections to these brokers. They've gotten to know them over the years. One of them has been involved with gold his whole life. His little joke is he's been putting it in the shoebox under the old apple tree in the backyard since he was a little child. But it's true, he has accumulated a lot of gold in his life because he started at a young age. And so his dream was to get a company that he could get it into the hands of the everyday person, that even if you only bought one, you could still get that discounted price. You don't get discounts with, let's say, JM Bullion until you buy 50 or 100 of their same coin. So they'll say, this is the price from 1 to 10, this is the price from 10 to 20. Yep. And that's how they discount it, is by bulk.
By bulk.
But we're like Costco, it's always at bulk price.
Okay. Good. That's good to know. I'm tempted to kind of jump right into some of the more controversial stuff. Maybe let's do that. Let's not controversial, but just basically, why are people looking at gold now more than they would have maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago? What is it about the political climate that is making people think that it's no longer safe to hold value in dollars?
Faith in the government is certainly going down, no matter which side of the platform you're on. You see people on the left that don't want government. You see people on the right that don't want government. And we're learning, how do we do that? How do we get away and out from under the thumb of the biggest Ponzi scheme ever, which would be the dollar and the W-2 job and taxation and IRS. And you start to realize, when you learn what income tax actually is, you say, well, that's stealing my money. It's theft. It's legalized theft. I'm not going to get into it because it's a long explanation. Okay. But I'm certainly happy to have people get a hold of me and talk to me about this stuff. Mike Maloney has a channel, and I'm going to plug him because he does a fantastic job of explaining what the tax is and the IRS and all that stuff.
I've never heard of him, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, Mike Maloney. And he's a gold and silver expert. But when people like me start researching, how do I get out from under this, which started with me just wanting to be home with my kids and trying to do a business from home.
So you're thinking to yourself, how do I stop having to play a game that's denominated in monopoly money issued by the government?
It became that once I learned what gold and silver was.
Oh, okay.
Because you think I knew this all my life. I didn't know this until 3 years ago.
All right.
I didn't even know I should care about it. I didn't know why I should trust the dollar, and I didn't question it. I would be what you call a sleeper. I was totally asleep. And what happened was somebody introduced this to me and said, why don't you do this? If you're trying to be home with your kids, this is a business you can do from home. And at that point, I was just kind of so down on my luck with money that I said, whatever, sign me up. I don't even care what it is, just do it. Well, thank God it was somebody that cared about me enough to teach me about gold and silver. And it blew my mind. I got a history lesson from one of the owners who used to be a history teacher. And I went to one of these little conventions. There was only about 50 of us. And I've gotten to know the owners personally. And just they're wonderful at teaching. And he taught me about Bretton Woods. And I was like, what is this? What is this? Federal Reserve? What is this? Bretton Woods? What is this? All of this. And I just flew. I'm a researcher by nature. And I just flew into this. And I hit the ground running. I prayed about this because you can get into some very dark rabbit holes very quickly when you start searching for truth. Because this is connected to a lot of other things. And I have done nothing but grow in this, and this has been fantastic for me. So I have found a lot of freedom of my mind and understanding because I don't have to pay much for IRS tax. I paid off $18,500 in the last 5 years to the IRS.
Of back taxes?
Yes.
Wow.
And that's not a very long time to pay that off. I got it done very quickly.
Oh, good work. This
is part of that, but also learning how to manage my money and not to buy excessive things. I stopped going out to eat. This is all related, and that's why I'm talking about it. I lived in a tiny apartment that your dad rented to me. It was like 500 square feet. We got rid of almost everything we had. And we had a bed to sleep on, we had a table to eat at, and we had one TV. And I got rid of everything else. And I learned how to stop thinking I need all this other stuff. And as I started to get into gold and silver and learn the truth about that, it's led me to trying to learn to live on my own outside of electricity that I get from the city.
You're thinking about going off the grid entirely?
Yes, I am.
Really?
And I've learned in little steps about how to do this, and I've come together with other people, and we're learning together. And what I tell people is, if it's scary, because by the way, just because I learned this today doesn't mean the world's going to end tomorrow, right? I don't have to get in a hurry.
Okay.
No matter what people say about coronavirus or any of these other things, I'm still going to plan that I've got lots of time to do this and take my time. And so what I've started to learn to do is just to build things, around the house. And I tell people the best first thing you can do, because it's a lot, is to buy gold and silver, because that's the first thing I did. And it's easy. And I can explain this to you very easily. I can't show you how to build a house. I can't show you how to get your own electricity yet. But one day I might be able to purify water, that kind of stuff. So I've just started building stuff around my house out of pallets. I just get the cheapest way I can do it.
Sure.
Free pallets, and start building things. And so essentially, I'm slowly learning how to do these things that started here with learning the truth about money. That's going to get me in a position of, if my power goes out, and why do they call it power? Because they're taking your power away. And I say, let's put power back into your life. It's electricity. And learn how to live for 6 months without it. Or learn how to live for 6 months by getting your solar power and purifying your own water. Not because you're scared of the end of the world, but because this shouldn't be your power. The electricity shouldn't be your power. The control of the government shouldn't have that power over us. And imagine if a lot of us did that. There's more of us than there are of them. They would start to lose control and their grasp on our lives.
Yeah. I wonder about that claim about the comparative quantity of the them, whoever they are. If they is government employees, then that certainly broadens the pool of citizens that are, receiving their W-2 is issued by the government itself. I'm aware, as you are, that what you just said probably sounds very, or at least somewhat fringy,
Yes.
for the average listener. And it is what it is. I mean, each of us has to pay our money and make our choice, as my grandpa used to say,
Yes.
with respect to our values in life and what we think is a risk worth taking or a risk not worth taking, and how we're going to hedge
Right.
against that risk. And so thanks for sharing that about yourself and where you are with that. One of the questions that I have about gold is, does it represent any more security than anything else if you have a government that, as was done by FDR in 1933, the government is just willing to step in and confiscate your gold and make it illegal for you to hold gold. So for those that don't know, that happened less than a century ago in our own country. And what's to keep it from happening again? So say a guy says, I don't trust the dollar anymore, I'm going to stockpile gold, and then when the rainy day comes, and then this dredges up a whole litany of other sort of more technical questions, like how do you spend gold? Do you scrape some off and go buy some bread with it and all this? But if you're not even going to have those problems because the government is just going to make it illegal for you to both hold and spend the gold that you've accumulated, why accumulate it? It just seems like you're making yourself a target.
This is a best case, worst case scenario thing that you got to do, right? What's the best case that comes out of this, and what's the worst case, and am I willing to take that risk, like you said?
What would be the best and what would be the worst case?
Well, the best case is it will be able to utilize this as currency again, as 11 states are already doing, and Wyoming is one of them.
Really?
As a legal tender, yes.
Tell us more about that. How do people spend their gold? Okay, so she's just handed me what looks like a Dungeons and Dragons playing card, but it says
made of
1
gold.
Utah goldback. It looks like a thin layer of gold leaf encapsulated
Like
or
foil
printed
almost.
onto a plastic backing.
Well, I don't know how much other stuff is in there besides gold, but it does tell you there's 1/1000th of gold in here at the bottom.
Okay.
See that?
Oh, I do see it. And actually, there's your troy ounce.
Right.
It says 1/1000th troy ounce 24 karat gold for circulation in Utah. Didn't even know such a thing existed.
I know, isn't it exciting?
I don't know. I can't get excited like you can, but
I get excited.
it's fascinating that it exists and that people are spending those.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know how much they're spending them yet, but it's set up.
It's
The
set up.
state's set up
Wow.
for this.
So
And
Utah, as a state, and it's not alone, recognizes the potential danger in the dollar, and they are doing something to counteract that or to set up for that rainy day.
we used to be not a nation, but a nation of states. We weren't the United States, we were states.
A nation of nations, in other words.
Yeah, we used to be able, every state was able to decide its own laws and abilities, and now we have the federal government. So yes, the federal government could step in and put the kibosh on this, but for whatever reason that I don't know, and I can't even bother to speculate, they're allowing the states to create gold and silver as legal tender. We're allowed to hold gold again since the 1974, and we can use it amongst each other. I could pay the guy that fixed my car in silver, he'd take it. He would do that. But
It really does depend on the recipient's
Yes.
willingness to accept it as a form of payment.
right.
And that depends further on their ability to turn around and then spend it for what they want.
Now I can tell you, our company buys gold and silver from you if you are a member like I am. And I said, well, I've got all this junk silver, which is 90%. Anything before 1965, for whatever reason they call it junk silver or constitutional silver if you want to sound fancy. But anyway, if as a member to my company of 7K Metals, if I come to them and I say, I've got this bag of junk silver that I've been collecting forever, would you really buy that from me because I didn't buy it from you? Well, I'm a member. They'd say, yeah, we absolutely will. Because there is an exchange of it. The New York Stock Exchange has a price on it because people are exchanging it as a commodity, right?
Okay.
And so even if it's not currency, it does have a value that can be bought and sold amongst dealers, amongst coin dealers, even pawn shops. So that's why they're going to want to know, is it pure silver or not? Because if they're going to buy it from somebody, they want to know what it is. The place you're going to get the best price from is whoever's going to pay you the most closest to spot for what you have. In my opinion, because I'm biased, that's my company, but there might be somebody out there that pay somebody more than even what we do. So there's not a fear of what am I going to do with it, who am I going to sell it to? I can sell it back to my own company. While there's still coin shops, I can sell it to them. While there's still pawn shops, I can even sell it to them.
It makes me want to ask you the question, what are, in your view, what are the federal government's incentives to prevent people from using gold, or what are their interests in whether or not the dollar continues to be seen as worth having?
It's hard to say because they've been kicking the can down the road for so long on the dollar that we'll probably see it crash maybe in our lifetime. I'm not sure. If the dollar crashes, then I feel like I have a safety net, not just in gold and silver, but in trying to survive, beyond not being able to have a dollar and having food and that kind of thing. Just like you're seeing in Venezuela. Their actual monetary system hasn't crashed yet, like it's not at zero. But they're all billionaires if they even have any of their currency right now. So it's just worthless, basically. It's close enough to zero, people are burning it. So I guess there's going to be a transition where they're allowing this for now because they know they're going to have to transition out of the dollar. But there could come a time when they transition to a new, what's called a fiat currency, meaning it's not backed by anything substantial.
We have a fiat currency now.
That's what we have.
Just most of us don't know that.
Correct. We have a fiat currency now that's, you could say it's backed by petrol, but again, it's very volatile. What if we change to a new currency? If it's not backed by gold, they might say this is illegal to hold again. I don't know. They never said silver was illegal, but gold was. they might say you can't own either of it, and we'll either have to bury it or hide it or turn it in. And at that point, it's like you said, I agree with you. We can find freedom in whatever situation we're in. This isn't my way to freedom, but it's created freedom in my life, and if it gets taken from me, I will still be able to find a way to have a joyful and peaceful life as much as possible because I trust the Lord, and He promised me that.
Okay. Yeah, it's good. We have to have our some sense of value, purpose, and meaning beyond any form of money. It isn't as if there's something, like there's that verse in the Bible, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. It's not like the love of dollars is the root of all kinds of evil, but gold is okay.
Right.
There's still that same liability in finding your value and your security in this representation of value that is common among men, such that if you have a lot of it, other people will think that you're important or secure or whatever that is.
Yes. And like you said, does it put a target on you? I think so, but I'm already a target. I'm a right-wing Christian YouTube personality.
No, I guess what I mean is, if you have a bunch of stored up value in the form of gold and silver, when the wheels come off, you'll just be a target for theft of that value.
If they can find me.
If they can find you.
I scrub my information off the internet regularly.
Yeah.
Even I was tell a quick story, but somebody made a false call into police on me, which is fine. It all worked out fine. But when the police were trying to find me, they couldn't find me. They didn't know where I lived.
Really?
Yeah, so if anyone ever wants any help with that, it's time consuming, but I think it's important to get your information off the internet as much as possible because it's being bought and sold all over the place. And so yes, I give my real name. Yes, people know where I live in as far as city, but even the local police couldn't find my house.
And you like it that way?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess, so from your perspective, you're a lot more suspicious of even local authority.
No, it's not that I don't want the police to know. I don't want anyone. I'm not saying those police, I'm against them.
Okay.
I thank them for doing their job and responding to the call.
Right.
Very nice. They were very nice people. What I don't want is for people to just be able to find me easily.
Just any old person.
Any person,
yeah.
Police or not. Now, if it was the federal government, they would have been able to find me, no problem. They probably know what tennis shoes I wore in the 3rd grade, but this was just local police.
Yeah. Let me see. Let's get into some technical aspects of storage. If somebody buys gold, where do they keep it? Can they keep it in a shoebox in their closet?
Sure.
Is that one option?
Yes, of course.
Somebody will ship them the gold and they can keep it themselves?
Yes.
And if they don't want to do that, I understand that there are various depositories around the country.
There are vaults, and they're armed. And so you can actually arrive when your shipment arrives if it's local, and you can watch your gold and silver be placed in the vault. And there's armed, I'm not talking security guards with mace, I'm talking armed guards with guns that watch those vaults. Our company is going to open a personal vault in Idaho Falls. They have their vault for their storage, but they're going to open a vault for us. And I think it's going to be really minimal price. I think, I don't remember, I'm not even going to quote, but for members it's just going to be really low compared to what I'd have to pay another vault, which is like $15 a month and up, which isn't a lot either to have armed guards watch your stuff, and no one's going to break into it, at least not easily. But you could have a safe at home and you can bolt it to a concrete floor. You could put it in a shoebox and hide it in your closet. Not the safest. You could bury it in the backyard. There's numerous ways. If you're not worried about its collectability, this stuff doesn't burn up in a fire. This stuff can't be destroyed in the water. It's going to outlast your lifetime. So you could store it just about however you want. But for safety reasons, yes, we have vaults all over the country. You pay so much a month, just like you would a storage unit, and they put your physical gold and silver in there if you're buying from somebody who sells physical gold and silver.
Yeah. So in the event of a crisis, do you have to go to Idaho Falls or to Texas or Delaware to get your gold out?
Yeah.
You do?
I'm not doing a vault, if you're wondering. I prefer the safe bolted to the floor of a place that nobody knows where that's at.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not even in my home.
Yeah, so I guess, I don't know if other people think in those terms, just in kind of practicalities, but you'd have to get it in order to spend it or to use it.
There are people that buy gold and silver that aren't worried about a crisis. We have a whole spectrum of people, right?
Yeah.
We have buyers that are collectors. We have buyers that are just trying to diversify their portfolio. We do have people that are trying to build a hedge, but they're not thinking of a hedge of a crisis even. They're just thinking, I don't want to put my eggs all in this basket, so I'm going to have 2 or 3 baskets.
Just want to diversify.
Right. So for whatever reason somebody's buying, the vault can be useful to more people than not, probably.
Okay.
As you said, the way I think is more fringy. There's less people that are really trying to do what I want to do.
But I'm really glad you said that, because it is only the volatility, both monetary and political, that has sensitized me to this issue at all.
Same.
So when I think about why to buy gold, usually in the back of my mind is for that rainy day, for the crisis. But it is true that in terms of just storing value, that you can, buy low and sell high, gold, is like many other commodities.
Right. And like you said, I'm not pushing anyone to do what I'm doing. I say buy gold and silver for any of those reasons that you want to. If you're a collector, I get into that. I can get totally nerdy about collectability, but I can also get into just stacking bullion, where I don't care if they clink together. I don't care if they fall on the floor. People get all weird. They feel bad if they drop them. I'm like, well, this one's not in a plastic case. It's okay.
Right.
You can drop them. Just don't drop them down a crack and lose it. Here's something that's interesting that you say, well, how would you buy things if we did have a dollar crash? Well, this is what's called a combi bar, and it's a whole bunch of, it's 100 different little grams that you can break off, think of a Hershey bar for the listeners. You just break off these little grams. You can go buy your eggs and your milk with that.
Wow.
Granted that you're in a system where they would take it, of course.
Of
but
course.
Again, if we were in a bartering system, if I went down to Venezuela right now, because people want to say, if we have a dollar crash, you can't eat this. Well, of course not.
Yeah.
But not everybody's going to be in a crash, right? Some countries won't be. So just like Venezuela's in a crash right now, we're not.
Yeah.
So if I went to Venezuela right now and I gave them 2 ounces of silver, do you think they would say no? They would take that and they would leave their country.
Yeah, I don't think they would say no. I mean, especially
Right.
if you're just offering to give them value. It's important to know just historically that when there is a financial crisis, an actual crisis of the value of a currency, what happens is that other things start to be used as money.
Yes.
And those are called commodity monies. They can be tobacco, often have been tobacco. They can be edibles like corn, or any other thing that people...
Toilet paper?
Yeah, I guess, right? that is a contemporary relevant one.
Yes.
Yeah. But exactly. So it's not as if we have to have something issued by the government to facilitate exchange.
We do not. In fact, we probably could reach our potential better if we didn't.
Say more.
So our potential being in what we do, what we produce, what we get into, right? Because you say if we don't have to do it, we'll just pay somebody to do it. So a lot of us are kind of sitting around letting things be done for us. Like, I don't have to go out and till the fields for my food. I can go to the grocery store. I don't have to put out solar energy for my electricity. I just pay my electric bill. And it kind of creates less potential in a group of people to just kind of go along with the flow and to do as told in a lot of ways. I do relate a lot with your anarchist friend in ways I didn't think I would, right?
With Phil.
Phil.
Okay.
But in some small ways. But
Yeah.
if I can do that on my own, I have to do more work to do it.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's exactly right. It seems to me when I just chart the evolution of units of exchange, what they always prefer is convenience, right? It was really inconvenient to carry around a treasure chest of gold, right? Not only that, it was risky,
Yes.
but it was, just heavy.
Yes.
And so they said, let's put this into paper.
Right.
That was easier yet to carry. And then from paper we moved to plastic. That was easier yet. You didn't have to carry around many bills, just one card would do. And now we're moving from plastic into digital, right? Easier still. And each time you make a move in that sequence of steps, the trade-off for more convenience is something. It's important to recognize that you're losing something as you gain that greater convenience.
Yep. Yes, and that's why I said you'll find more potential in the people that have to work more to do these things, because you're going to be able to start seeing what you can really do.
Such as?
Well, let's say you didn't, a year ago, 2 years, let's say 3 years ago, I would have never thought I could build a deck at my house.
Okay.
I built a deck.
Nice.
Right? I wouldn't even screw in I couldn't even get the TV on the wall. Okay. So I was one of those people that when I was married, my husband did everything.
Okay.
I mean, I just literally thought I couldn't do these things.
Really?
Because I fell into this lazy trap of convenience.
Yeah.
And I found someone that would do it for me.
Huh.
And now that I'm like, I want to start learning these things. And then your dad says, you want to start landscaping all my buildings complexes and stuff? I said, well, yeah. And he goes, you don't think this sounds like too much labor for you? And I said, I don't care. I want to learn this stuff.
Awesome.
I want to learn to do these things. And now, like, my potential is reaching really great places. I had a little old lady that's lived in the neighborhood a long time. I think her name is Phyllis. Lives down the street from
Oh,
her.
white hair, loves
Yeah.
flowers. I know Phyllis.
So Phyllis stopped by and said to me, she thanked me for what I'm doing with that little house. She said, this house hasn't seen love in 40 years.
Wow.
Just pull me aside. I was like, oh no, some lady's going to come talk to me. What does she want? And she wanted to thank me about that house. And that was confirmation from the Lord for me that I'm on the right path in what I'm doing, because she hasn't even seen what I've done on the inside.
Good.
To
That's
see
awesome. Good for you. Yeah, just so you're on a journey of increased general competence.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've grown a lot in many ways. And certainly my patience level and my joy level. My patience level is higher. My joy level is higher. And I'm doing a lot more work than I've ever done.
I'm sure your self-respect level is higher too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had no self-worth several years ago.
It is important to just acknowledge that the price of self-worth is effort, and if you're not inclined to exert yourself, you basically shouldn't expect to generate much meaningful self-respect.
Which is what gives gold and silver the value, is the effort.
That effort. Yeah, there's that effort again. I'm in the midst of writing an essay on, I think I'll just entitle it "What We Don't Understand About Money," and I think I will tie that piece back in. Somehow we have lost touch, just conceptually, with the reality of effort's role in our currency. I don't know if that's because, I don't know, it's possible to like buy things at a discount to where, and just to forget the effort that went into producing the product that we're buying. And so what we're exchanging for that product is not a dollar, it's the representation of my effort. So I'm saying I'll take 2 hours of my effort and trade it for 1 hour of your effort, because if I were to try to do the thing that you did, it would take me 5 hours.
Right.
So I'm happy to turn over two hours of my effort and time represented by this dollar for whatever you're selling.
That's good. I think that's a great picture to paint, because you're even enlightening me still more. Because I don't think about that still, right? I don't think about the hours of effort I'm putting in to give to somebody else for their hours of effort. And that's a really good thing to think about when you're buying. It's a smart way to buy, because now you're saying, could I do that? Is it worth it for me to do that?
Yeah.
Instead of working for this money twice as long as you had to. And that's what I've done with my phone. I've fixed my phone many times. I have a 5-year-old.
You've opened it up?
Yes,
Wow.
many times.
Okay.
And I break the screens a lot. But I wanted to learn how to fix it. Now, the first time was very, very tedious and very painful.
Yeah.
The first time. But I can get in and out of there pretty quickly now and change the screen.
Okay.
So it's worth it to me not to pay $150 or even $100 to somebody when I can get a screen for $25.
Why don't you get a screen protector for $5?
And I did do that
Okay.
finally. And I have a case on it now. You know, the point is it was something I learned how to do, so that I don't have to buy a new phone anymore, and I can keep fixing the old phone. I've replaced other little parts. There's some things I won't do because I think, I might just totally kill the phone. Like the battery replacement, you should be more careful with. And I'm just like, okay, I do want to pay somebody to do that.
Yeah.
So that's okay to want to pay somebody to do some things.
Definitely. I mean, that is partly why the division of labor was such an amazing move forward in mankind's advancement. Just as if somebody can spend all their time becoming super efficient at one thing,
Right.
then we can, it's to everyone's advantage to trade away a few hours of my time at what I'm good at for a few hours of his time. It's just...
Well, just to get more fringy for you, that's what I want to do, is have a community of people. We all have our gifts. And I would like them to be God-fearing Christian people. So there's bias in that. But I would love for us to have the same mindset there, because then I think that's how you stay. If you stay in line with the scriptures and with God, I think we can stay in line as a community better. I think that we'll be on the same path as what we're doing for each other and why we're doing it. And it's not communist, it's not socialist, but even though that would sound like it, because we're all working and helping each other, I guess, but in the nature of the way communism and socialism works as governments, that's not what we'd be trying to do. You'd have somebody that's better at house building that might help us build our houses, and you have somebody that's better at gardening and farming that's going to help us with our food. And anyway, we all bring our gifts together, all hopefully learn some of that together, so we all help each other, and then we just all utilize the resources together.
I don't want to sound like a naysayer, but that has been tried many times.
Sure.
And often you just have division over some point of theology,
Oh,
or
yeah.
you have people that will use, right? They'll live off the efforts of other people and not contribute.
Right. So it's a dream that I'm not trying to really build, but I always say, wouldn't it be nice? You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like what your friend, what did he call it? A utopia. And
Mm-hmm.
my immediate feeling was like, not gonna happen, right? I understand that aspect, especially because in this day and age, especially as a non-believer, if you're bringing in a utopia, you're saying tolerance to all, and we're all gonna have one world peace, and one world this, and one world that. And when I start to hear one world anything,
Mm-hmm.
then I know that Christianity is no longer at play in that system, and that's a false peace, and it's a sign of the times. But I
Even
talk
though-
about it. I'll just say I
Yeah.
talk about it for a reason, because it is a possibility that you would not live in a town of that. I'm just saying, like, I might have my house and my land, and you have your house and your land, and if you want some of my eggs, you can have some of my eggs. And if I come over and ask you for something without expectation, if you're doing, hey, you want to help me build this house, that's more what I mean. Not really just the community being, we all build our own city,
Yeah.
but we help each other in a way that you don't see people helping each other. They're pushing us into the cities, away from farming. I won't even get started on that, but if we could just, if a few of us wanted to end up buying land around each other and we helped each other out, it's not that kind of community like you're thinking, because if we get in a fight with the guy that's 30 acres away, we just don't go over there anymore.
I want to take back a little bit of what I just said about people have tried this and it usually doesn't work. I think that is the case, but you and I are both aware of a community where it is working and has been for several decades, I think. I'm thinking of our friends in Big Timber area.
Yes,
Right?
That's a very solid example, and I think it matters who is behind it all, and if it's Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
it can work.
Man, but Satan is constantly infiltrating, suggesting, dividing, and communities of faith are no exception.
That's true.
Yeah, they may be even as much a target as anywhere is.
If not more, but I would say, again, that's why I said I would want my community of people that I was dealing with to be Christian, and that's my bias, because I just believe it would work the best.
I know, and I don't believe it. I mean, Christians can be nice people, but they're still people.
Yes.
I guess what I mean is, faith can be unifying, but it can also be divisive.
Absolutely.
It just be that way. So
It is that way when you have to come to your brother or sister with correction, or they to you. And that has to happen in a community like that, because I can't imagine that they'd be flourishing out there in Big Timber if they didn't correct each other on things that they were concerned about.
yeah, I think somehow, and this is why I'm fascinated with those guys conceptually, they have dialed in a way of doing it that is more sustainable, that has some safeguards against these more, I don't know, divisive trends that have torn apart other attempts to do something similar.
Yes, and I have seen it in my own, what I would say my own community. People think that if you're right wing, that you should all be on the same mindset and thought process. That's a very big group. And yet I clash big time with a lot of right wing people. And even in the Christian community, so my opinion is, and I could be wrong, and I'm okay with being wrong if I find the truth to be different, but my opinion is the more seriously and less theoretically, the more that we take Scripture literally and try to live the way that Scripture tells us to live, then we will have that ability to do what they're doing out there. Because if I say, I'm not sure that aligns with Scripture, I'm going to go back to the commandments or whatever part, even Leviticus, great, like case in point, tattoos. I no longer think they're a good idea. Really would urge people not to get them.
But
Why?
You have many.
I have 11
For people
really
that
large ones.
Don't know you. I'm
Right,
just-
they'd look at me and say they want to tell me about their tattoos, and the next thing they want to get, and I'm like, don't care. I don't say that, but that's my thought. I would go back to Leviticus, and they say, well, that's the old law, that it doesn't apply anymore. I think that the Scriptures do say that it is all good for teaching and correcting. And so I want to go back to Leviticus and say, why don't you get that Scripture tattooed on you that says you shall not mark your body? Who's going to get that tattoo? Nobody.
I'm going to do some future conversations on my podcast about the Bible and with people who are just reading it and trying to interpret it differently than maybe a traditional approach. One of the the quandaries that just springs to mind when I hear you talk like that is the Bible is this collection of texts from which it is possible to justify almost any view that you care to justify. And so I guess the point that I want to highlight is it is so complex and so multifaceted and almost so many different voices that in terms of using it as a book to integrate or unite many different people in a community setting, even if they all do somehow take it as authoritative, the one person, it's just that you can say, it says this here, and so therefore we need to do that. And then the other person will come back and say, well, it says here, this here, therefore we need to do this, or you can't talk to me like this. It just becomes another battleground.
It is hard to explain what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I know what most people will think about what I'm saying.
What will they think?
They'll think like that anything goes, like you just said. You're right. You could find the spot where it talks about slavery and say that it's okay to have slaves. And maybe it is. I don't know, right? Because the truth reveals itself, though, the more you read it. The more you read the Bible, the truth starts to reveal itself, and it makes sense.
I know, but the problem you run into is, even if that's the case, and you have some squabble with another person in your community, you're in a position of telling them, just read the Bible more, and it'll start to make sense to you. You'll see it my way.
Well, I'm not sure I would say that.
I don't know that you would say that, but certainly people have said something
Sure.
like that. You're just not woke enough, you're not enlightened enough, you don't have enough
That's
truth.
definitely
You
something
need to read
people
some
say.
more Bible. And then the problem is, even if the person says, okay, I'm going to yield to your authority, just be your positional authority, I'm going to read some more Bible. And then they come back a year later and they're like, I'm still not seeing it that way, bro.
Yeah.
We're at the impasse. And so I'm just saying, like, it's not even though we have the ministry of reconciliation, like in terms of being God's people on earth, it is possible to take that position and totally ignore, the heart of it, and to just say, we need to do things in the way that the Bible says / I say, and if you're not on board, you're out.
Well, that'd be the problem, to kick somebody out. I have a community where we've checked each other on some things, and probably not to send anybody in a flurry of confusion, but for instance, I tell people to be careful with things like martial arts and yoga. And so if somebody comes into my community, and this is an online community, when I say my community, it's a Discord channel where we all bring research together and chat. But it's not a chat channel. It's not really for chatting. Like, hey, how are you doing today? Oh, what's up? Are you going to, it's more like drop an article and go, oh my gosh, yeah, I just saw that. Or here's some research. Have you looked into this? New information, old information, whatever people want to talk about. And it's separated by titles of, you can drop it under the New World Order stuff, or you can drop it under, if somebody's studying flat Earth, whether you believe in it or not, you can drop some information in there. A lot of us don't agree on a lot of the same things. But for instance, recently, two of us were talking to another fellow about his desire to want to do Qigong or something. I can't remember what it's called. And
Qigong, I think.
yeah, and so we just
Chinese.
expressed a concern, but I didn't say, oh, you know what you're getting into now. I mean, I'm not a demon behind every bush person. I'm just saying, pray about it. And I always ask people to pray for the truth. And then if you feel like that's okay for you, I really don't know that it isn't, or it is. I can only go on my research and how I feel about it. For me, I'm not going to do it. And I'm convicted in that. But I really try not to tell people they can't do something or should do it my way. And I would never kick him out of my Discord channel unless he started using a bunch of curse words and it was just belligerent.
So that's where you draw the line.
Well, if he's being belligerent, calling me names, and I do ask people not to curse in there. But I don't kick them out for doing it. And in fact, I don't even correct them if it only happens once in a while. So the point is he's certainly welcome to come in there, but I'm also not going to, it's my Discord channel. Like if it's,
it's your responsibility to maintain some sort of ethos of politeness.
Right, so if he is starting to get people on board where they're saying, oh, I want to check it out, and they've never done so before, I'm going to say, well, we're going to have to stop suggesting other people check it out. Anyway, you're right. So does that person leave an offense? Well, he did. And so what I do is I just love on the people that don't do that. I just love when people don't get offended because I've been wrong. And if it turns out I'm wrong, I've apologized. And I have a lot of people now in this community. It's grown into a pretty loving Christian group of people that I might say something offensive and they'll just come to me and they'll either tell me, I didn't like what you said. and then I can deal with them.
Yeah.
And we can work that out. And that's my hope for what the community would look like.
Yeah, but definitely have to have conversation, humility, correction, repentance.
Yes.
The ability to
Forgive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. It's fundamental to human systems if they're going to work at all and just not come to pieces. I want to get back to gold before we wrap up. Are there any points that you would like to make or ideas that you'd like to share? And I have one final question for you.
Boy, I don't know that I had anything I felt like I needed to say, except for if this is something that anybody's interested in, I would be happy to help whether they buy from my company or not. That's not an issue for me, because if somebody would have said that to me, me being a rebellious person would have been like, well, then I don't want to know about gold and silver if I got to buy from your company. So I wouldn't do that to anybody. I want people to know that they can ask me as many questions as they want. I will take the time with them. And if they never even buy from my company, I'm totally okay with that, as long as they're just getting it from somebody.
Okay. So my last question is it possible that gold is in a bubble? And if so, what does that mean for how we should navigate the issue?
I guess I would think of the bubble as being the price being held down. And will it skyrocket all of a sudden if we have a market crash? And to what degree it would skyrocket?
That changes the idea of a bubble in my mind. Typically,
or do you think
bubbles,
that it would just drop in price? I think of the bubble as everything else.
You think everything else is in a bubble and gold
Yes.
is kind of just where it is?
I've never thought about it being in a bubble, but I guess if I was going to speculate it being in a bubble, gold has never dropped in value to zero in the 5,000 years that we know of it, right? Never. And so if gold has stood the test of time of 5,000 years, I'm not concerned that it will drop to zero tomorrow.
Well, dropping to zero, I mean, is a fringe concern. If it drops to half its value, that would.
I would love it, because then I would buy a lot more.
Yeah, because you just
It doesn't-
you have faith that it will retain its value and go back
I
up.
have that much faith that I would. When people get upset that they bought in high and now it's low, I'm like, I think it's always a good time to buy, and I'm excited that I can afford it right now.
Really? Okay. Well, on that note, I think we're good. I feel like I want to talk to my listeners just for a minute. Thank you guys for listening to this. I'm not sure if this registers on your interest radar. It will for some and not for others. Please do reach out to me and let me know if this conversation was intelligible, especially if you're new to the gold topic. Was it helpful, and was it something that you could listen to and understand and learn from? I definitely want to be helpful, and I know Erin does too. Once again, her name is Erin Moffett, and we've been talking about gold, and she can help people purchase that. She's set up, and I mean, the original reason that I wanted to talk to you about this is because I'm beginning to ask myself, should I buy some gold?
I'll let you know that a lot of your family members are.
Well, I know one who is.
Oh, you have an uncle that does.
Yeah.
Gunner. He doesn't buy from me, but he's got a lot of storage, and he also makes colloidal silver, which he's done for me recently.
Colloidal?
It's a health benefit. It's 10 parts per million silver, and you drink it.
Oh, okay. Wow.
For health
No, I did not
benefits.
know that. I'll have to ask Gunnar about that.
Yeah, I'm getting to know your family quite well.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks again for your time,
Yes.
your expertise. And
Thank you, Abram, for
you're
doing
welcome.
this with me.
Sure thing.